too much stuff open here. There we go. All right, so yeah, we just need to cancel 2020. Oh, then there was that whole joke about how the Mayan was actually dyslexic and it wasn't 2012 that the Earth was supposed to end. It's 2021.
Oh yeah, that was a
No, they
mess.
did not call him dyslexic.
I get that.
No, they did
They
not
call-
call that man dyslexic.
They
Yeah.
call a whole civilization dyslexic. That is, I'm done with this generation.
That sounds
Can
like
we
y'all
start all
president
over?
who said that. That must be y'all president.
Oh no, we're not going there. No, no, no.
We're recording.
Don't bring
We're recording.
We're recording. No, no.
Government, do not come for me.
All right.
Unless you use his credit card.
Control.
Let's talk about nutrition. We've now discussed the considerations that we need to take when we're supporting our life stages. We talked about puppies and the things we need to do, the minimum fats, the minimum proteins. We transitioned into adults and some of the alternative things that we need to take into consideration, like the size of the pet, the activity of the pet, how to provide maintenance. We talked about how to maintain. We discussed monitoring a body condition score. And these definitions of what is emaciated versus underweight, ideal, which is where all of our pets would optimally be. Although, fun fact, about 80% of our companion animal pets, right there, and number 4. And the reason for that is right here. Because this is the body style that people believe is a healthier body style. And this is actually number 4. This is an overweight animal. And then you have obese and obesity, and then clinical obesity. And then remember, clinical obesity is where we have animals who have other body functions being affected. Heart, respiration, circulation, you're going to have joint issues, muscle atrophy, all of the above. So those are our body conditioning, and it's not high tech. Just pet them, pet your dog, and feel and see, how easy is it for you to palpate the ribs? How easy is it for you to palpate those hips? Oops, get my. So there's our body size. And then we talked about some other considerations like our large meals in large dogs. And I gave you with my sweater, showing you how that stomach twists on itself because of the pendulous. This is our GDV. Remember, gastric dilatation, to dilate, volvulus, meaning it's flipped over on itself. And we have that radiographically, that double bubble. That's what we call it. This one you can really see, the double bubble. It looks almost like a Smurf hat. Then we started making fun of it a little bit and seeing the humor in our pet food labels, like real chicken as opposed to a chicken. Yes, I believe so, Casey. I believe so. We talked that chicken meal, not necessarily a bad thing. Chicken meal means that there's no water added. And so you may actually have a food where real chicken is the #1 ingredient, but because it has the water added, it's artificially inflated in the ingredients list. And so you might have something with chicken meal that actually has more animal-based protein than something that has chicken as the first ingredient. Then we got a bit of a giggle. I just make this makes me laugh, is these farm raised. Like there's something alternative to raising fruits and vegetables on a farm. Does anyone know any alternatives? It's not like we're running out catching wild fruits and vegetables.
Like free range chicken, free range fruits and vegetables.
Yeah, free range beets, free range, I don't know. It just makes me laugh. And hooray for them, huzzah. They're formulating it with added vitamins and minerals until we realize that they have to do this. That's non-negotiable. they're not doing us a favor by adding these. They have to be included in a complete and balanced diet. Interchangeable formulas, because we all know just how well the canine gut deals with the acute food change. And then we learned this, all life stages. So this food is saying that it is going to provide complete and balanced nutrition for puppies, adults, and seniors. It doesn't matter, you can feed any life stage out of this one package. But what does that really mean? If we are formulated for all life stages, what is the life stage that it has to be specifically formulated for?
For
Puppy.
puppies.
Puppies, because it has to be formulated for the life stage that has the highest nutritional needs, which are going to be puppies. Now, ultimately, is that a horrible thing? I mean, how is it if it's formulated, it has higher calories, higher fat, higher protein? How is it that I can feed this to my adults? Well, I just feed less of it. You know, feed less of it, and that will prevent them hopefully from gaining too much weight. Although, little tech tip from me to you, you have a dog that comes in, the owner is trying to just reduce the food a little bit, get a couple of lbs off, and he's like, I don't understand it. Now, as long as there's no thyroid issue, first thing I ask, if they say that they have reduced the food and when they're not seeing a weight reduction, first thing I ask is bring in the package, and the first thing I look for is this. Because what may be happening is puppy food obviously has more energy, more calories, and that can cause weight gain or at least a lack of weight loss in our adults. So I need to grab a beverage. I forgot to grab a Diet Coke, and my throat is starting to get a little dry today. Oh, got a little froggy in my throat. All right, so this is going to be pretty easy, okay? Unless you've been living under a rock. There are 3 basic forms of food. The first one is dry food. Okay, you can see it. There it is. Dry food. I'm not going to get it out like I did yesterday by accident because my dogs would not stop pestering us. We also have canned food. Canned food. And semi-moist, which is kind of a hybrid in between. Oops. Stop. Don't know why I have a timer on my phone. All right, so dry food, this is the kibbles, okay? This is what the majority of you guys are feeding your pets. Now, it does still have water in it. It's going to have about 12% water. And this is why we need to have preservatives. Even food that's like preservative-free, yeah, no, it's not. It may not have artificial preservatives, still has preservatives, because anywhere you have water, you have the potential for mold, bacteria, fungus, and we certainly don't want to be feeding our pets mold and fungus. So this dry food is the only food that is suitable for ad lib, and we learned yesterday that that means free feed. So this dry food is going to be absolutely perfect for our cats who are dependent on the external gluconeogenesis. They're dry, they're crunchy, they provide a mechanical action. We talked yesterday about what happens if you ate nothing but pudding for a day, how nasty your teeth would feel. And then you eat something crunchy, and it's going to provide that mechanical action of helping to kind of clean and reduce the plaque and tartar buildup. Now, you definitely want to continue to brush their teeth, give them dental prophylaxis, but this is best for, kind of maintenance of the dental health. The disadvantage is it doesn't taste as good. Okay, it has what we call a lower palatability. Palatability means how does it taste? And we have here the calorie content. So this is gonna provide 1,300 to 2,000. This kcal stands for kilo calorie. Calorie, remember, is a standard measurement of energy. But 1 calorie is such a tiny measurement that when we're discussing dietary needs, what we'll do is we'll take 1,000 calories and bundle them together. And we'll count that as 1 kilocalorie. So when you see this kcal, what they've done is they've actually bundled 1,000 individual calories into one bundle. Otherwise, the number would be too big to put on the package. So we have 1,300 to 2,000 kilocalories of metabolizable energy. So this is the energy that we have available for use per pound of food in a dry matter form. Now we're going to talk about this as far as dry matter. So whenever we are calculating out the energy in these foods, the first thing that we need to do is mathematically remove the water, because water is going to dilute everything out. And if we want to compare dry to canned, well, obviously there is a lot more water in this canned food. It's actually about 75% water. So in order to have a comparison of apple to apple, we need to mathematically remove it. And when we mathematically remove the water, we then refer to that as the food is in a dry matter state. There's our semi-moist. It looks disgusting. Ugh. It does. Doesn't it look like something that's already been eaten once and then it threw it up? Ugh, it's disgusting. But it's going to contain about 25 to 35% water. And it's going to have a higher palatability. Oh my God, Brittany, really? You had to go there.
Oh, it do. It look like chopped up boiled hot dogs.
Brittany,
Like a sauce.
boo. Oh, the minute I read that, Britt, my whole stomach just went.
It's giving me chopped up hot dogs with like a sauce on top of it that's boiled already.
Yeah, but that's the crazy. Yeah, every one of us looked at
It's
that.
good
And
to
went,
me.
Yup. We've all been there. We've all thrown up a hot dog at some point in our life, and that's what it looks like. Ugh.
Yeah.
Really, Rob?
Part of that tea.
Really? Yes. Thank you, Casey. Robert?
I feel like I have thrown up a hot dog maybe at a family reunion back in the day. I feel like maybe I did as like a 6-year-old kid or something. Who knows?
Yeah. Robert, I use your full name, Robert. You know I'm being very serious when I use your full name. Leave the mac and cheese out of it. Now I call it craft dinner because that's what we call it up north. So when I say craft dinner, I mean mac and cheese. I actually had mac and cheese yesterday for lunch. I had a mac and cheese sandwich. It was delicious. Anyway, semi-moist, thrown up hot dogs. Thank you again for that visualization. Brittany, always always there to lend a hand with the visualizations. All right, so 25 to 35% water. Why would we want to feed this? Well, there's a couple of reasons. Maybe I have an animal who's had some sort of dental work done. Another reason might be cats. Let's think about cats for just a minute. Now, obviously, I can't feed this ad lib, okay? If you've ever fed canned food or semi-moist food, oh, Lord, after about 20 minutes, suddenly it looks like thrown up hot dog with skin on it. It looks disgusting, even more disgusting. But if I have a cat that has some sort of kidney compromise and I need to increase the water intake, I can supplement some of the semi-moist food. And simply eating it, because it has the higher water content, is going to help to increase the flow to the kidneys and help flush out the kidneys. Now, the one thing to note about this semi-moist food is right here. These simple carbohydrates, remember, simple carbohydrates are going to be our monosaccharides, simple sugars. These take no energy to break down. They're readily available for use. And so where this is going to be contraindicated or not recommended is with our diabetic animals. Remember, our diabetic animals, this is an inability to regulate our blood glucose because of something going on with the pancreas. We are not producing insulin. The last thing I want to do is provide more sugar in a form that is very easily and quickly uptaken into the bloodstream. I'm supposed to be minimizing the spike, not increasing it. So these simple carbohydrates are going to not be recommended for our diabetics. We want more complex carbohydrates, which we're not going to find in this food. And then we're going to have 1,200 to 1,350 kcal. There's our kilocalorie metabolizable energy per pound of food, dry matter. All right, I am now going to move off the vomit hot dog slide. Are you guys okay? Do you need me to stay on it for a minute? All right, finally, we have canned food. And these are going to contain up to 75% moisture. Here I have some Beneful bites, and this is, yeah, so this one is 76% moisture, which means 76% of the contents of this food is water. The crazy thing is about these canned foods is even though the majority of the ingredient is water, they're some of the most expensive foods on the market. They have the highest palatability, meaning that they're going to taste great. So if you have an animal, why do we feed it? I mean, if it's mostly water, what is the benefit? Kidney compromise again. You got an animal who's got kidney failure and you need them to be ingesting more water to help filter, canned food. You have an animal with chronic mouth issues, soft food, canned food. You have an animal who won't eat. They have anorexia, especially, oh my God, our anorexic cats. Put this in your little tech tip up in your head. Remember, anorexia in cats. Yes, Rob, semi-wet, so semi-moist can usually contain, on average, 76%. However, we can go up, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, the maximum amount of water allowed is 78.5%. There is one exception to this rule. Of course there is. But in normal canned food, I can add up to 78.5% water and still be within my limits. So this one is 76%. How did I find that? 76% moisture. So that moisture content will always be given to you in the guaranteed analysis.
On that Purina stuff that you have us do for like the grade and stuff,
Yeah.
it talks about this a lot, and like I think for section 101 or something like that, it really goes in detail about wet food and stuff like that. So I learned a lot of information about that I never even known.
Yeah.
And that 78% stuck to my head. So when you said that, I know they talked about in that Purina stuff.
Yeah. So and so Leslie, the 25 to 35% was our semi-moist. 75 on average is our canned food. We also call it moist food. Yes, I'm saying the M word a lot. Get over it. So these have the highest palatability. Now we know that any kind of anorexia in our felines super dangerous, right? Hepatic lipidosis much, right? Cats will not eat what they cannot smell. That's one of their kind of quirks. So if I have a cat with an upper respiratory infection, in fact, when we get animals eventually back on campus, one of the things that your husbandry team is going to really need to monitor are the cats, because inevitably they all come in with some sort of upper respiratory infection. Cats and upper respiratories are peanut butter and jelly. But they can't smell, so they won't eat. So because these foods are higher in palatability, the other thing that we can do is warm them up, and they're incredibly fragrant. They stink. They are super smelly. And that, though, is going to allow the cat to smell it and then eat it. These are also good foods that you can force feed. You can either just scoop some out, kind of scrape it along the roof, and the animal's going to, and that's going to make them eat it. You can also add more water to this food and make it into almost like a thick slurry, like a thick, it's almost like a gravy.
Like a cat food shake.
Exactly like a cat food shake. Yes, it looks like gruel, but you can put it into a large bore tip syringe, like a feeding syringe, and you can use that to force feed them. So this is a great food for some of our therapeutics. Very inconvenient to store, okay? Once you open a can, you're pretty much within 12 hours have to finish the can. And again, it's some of the most expensive food on the market. It is going to contain higher levels of protein, which is great for our cats, but it's also going to contain higher levels of phosphorus, higher levels of sodium. So why is the phosphorus important? Well, let's think about our mineral lecture from last week. Phosphorus. If I have excess of phosphorus, don't I also have the potential for bladder stones? Yep, I sure do. And if I have an animal who's already kidney compromised, now I've got big problems. So there's a lot of things to take into consideration when you're trying to choose a form to feed. Our calorie count is going to be 16 to 2,300. There's our kcal, kilocalories of metabolizable energy, what's available for use per pound dry matter. Okay, I love this comparative form. And again, if you guys have been doing your certificates, I took this off of the IDEX certificate. So what this does is this is comparing our dry, semi-moist, and canned. And so I gotta move everybody over here. So what we have here is the moisture content, right? Here's our ranges. Here's our calorie content. Now this is an as fed. Now what as fed means is how is it coming out of the package? So when I am looking at the calorie content as it's coming out of the package, okay, we haven't done anything mathematical. Every ingredient is still in there. You can see let's say I have an animal who I'm trying to lose a little bit of weight. And so I'm looking at these kcals and I'm like, okay, well look, dry food is 1,270 to 1,800, but look at canned food. It's only 400 to 500. Oh my goodness gracious, which one of these is Joe Schmo gonna pick to put his pet on to make them lose weight? What would make sense to you?
The can, just looking at it like that.
Just looking at it. But this is where we got to do our client education. We want our dry matter basis. We've got to mathematically remove the water. And you can see our numbers really don't change that much when we go to the dry food because there's not that much fluid. But look at this, holy smokes. When we remove the dilution of the water, now you can see the true calorie content. And this is where you will have people looking at the kcal and they're like, I'm trying to get some weight off my pet and I got him this, low calorie, and you'll have, oh my goodness gracious, you'll have clients come into your clinic going the low calorie canned food. And you're like, well, what brand are you feeding? I mean, are you feeding a specialized, weight loss? No, I'm feeding Purina, but it's the low calorie. Well, let me see it. Well, it's this. I lost my camera. It's this. This is not low calorie. This is just simply just some Lunchables, some little small dog lunch bites. But they're looking at the kcal and it hasn't been diluted. And they're wondering, why is my pet not losing weight? Well, kazam. That's why. All right. Oh, Lord. All right, guys, buckle in. It's about to get a little bumpy in here. So I got some stuff I need to talk to you about. Pet food companies and the lack of regulation. There's only one law. There's only one rule, and one rule only. I'm not allowed to lie. That's it. That's the only rule. And there are going to be times in this lecture and definitely in the next one where we're probably going to get that one started on maybe Monday, where you're going to be like, but Ms. Huff, but I'm like, no. There's one of two answers to my question. Yes or no. If the answer is no, because I'm going to ask you, did they lie? Wednesday. Yes. Thank you, Marissa. The Monday for us. Did they lie? And if you answer no, it's perfectly acceptable. All right, so we do have some alternative claims on our food, okay? We've had our life stages, we've gone through the different forms, but we do also have some other some claims like premium. This one is super premium. Holy crap, that's premium. Now, technically, what we would expect from these foods is that they are very digestible. They have higher quality ingredients. However, I don't have to do anything different to my food to call it premium or super premium or ultra premium. Now, we're anticipating that the pet food corporations are doing something to the formula to give it this extra verbiage, but we don't have to. I can take, oh my goodness gracious. Okay. I would like to share with you just something to get you angry. Just to give you a bit of an idea of what we're dealing with here. All right. So right over here, I'm going to draw a vat and fill it. This is all dog food in here. Okay. These are all dog food kibbles. And this vat of dog food kibble is made. So the protein in this, and I'll explain why this is important later, but for right now, let's just say this contains 25% beef protein and 27% chicken. So we have a double protein in this food, which is fine. We can do that. We're allowed. So we have an overall 52% protein in this food. And that's okay. That's acceptable. That's an acceptable amount. Am I being realistic? No, of course not. No pet food company commercially on the planet is going to put 52% protein. But here, just for argument's sake, our pet food here at Huff and Puff Awesome Dog Food Corporation, we are going to have this 25% beef and 27% chicken. So now what I would like to do is we're going to start getting a package, filling it up from this bin, setting the package aside, getting a new, completely different named package, filling it up, putting it on the side. Are you ready? Okay, so obviously the first thing, let's do our puppy foods, okay? Because this also, I forgot to tell you, is formulated for all life stages. Everybody on board so far? Okay, so we're going to start with our puppy food. So obviously the first one we can do is a beef dinner for puppies. And then obviously we can also do a chicken dinner for puppies. We have two different proteins. We have a chicken and beef dinner for puppies. We have, let's see. Okay, now we're just doing puppy food right now. Okay, we can do this exact same thing for adults and seniors, right? Because it's all life stages. So we're just gonna do for puppies right now. Okay, so this is gonna also be premium beef dinner for puppies. Premium chicken dinner for puppies. And then premium chicken. Why am I putting chicken first? How come I had to list chicken first?
There's more of it.
This is the healthiest.
More of it?
It weighs more.
There's more of it.
Yeah, because there's a higher percentage of it.
Could it be cheaper also to have?
It's not, did you say cheaper like price?
Yeah, like for them to have more ingredients. Usually if it's like the cheaper, the more ingredient they'll use in it.
Yeah, in this case though, we're strictly looking at the percentage.
Oh, okay.
If you have 2 proteins and you are going to list them both on the package, you have to list them in order of percentage, not weight. So in this case, now, do I have to list both? No, obviously not. But if I am, I have to list the one that's in the higher percentage. So when I list both chicken and beef, chicken has to come first because there's a higher percentage of it. All right, so now we've done the premiums, but here's what else we can do. We could do super premium, ultra premium, So now, are we done? How about, this food does not contain any artificial colors, flavors, or preservatives. Therefore, I can call it all natural. So I now have all natural beef dinner, all natural chicken dinner, all natural chicken and beef dinner. What if I do an all natural premium? How about an all natural super premium?
You can go on forever with these names.
I can
And
go
it's
on
all the same
forever.
dog food.
And it's
And
still the
it's-
same thing, right?
I've filled every single one of these bags out of this vat of food. Now I can go through and do the exact same thing for adults. And I can go through and do the exact same thing for seniors. Here's the other thing though. Are we done? So now you can see how I could potentially have over 100 different brands, different types of food, technically from this same vat. Did I lie on any of them? No. But we also know a very specialized adult who does need the same formula as puppies.
You're lactating.
Lactated mom.
Bam. Here at Huff and Puff Awesome Dog Food Corporation, we have a food that is specifically formulated to support
Pregnant moms.
and lactating females.
But Ms. Huff, my question is, all those bags you just created is the exact same dog food, just different names. So I've been doing all this extra shopping and spending money on old dog food, and I could have bought the basic bag.
Well, okay, so yes and no. Potentially, can I do this? Absolutely. Am I saying that the pet food corporations are actually doing this? No, that's not what I'm saying. But I am going to teach you starting on I think probably Wednesday. We're going to discuss pet food labels And I'm going to teach you how to be able to decipher the pet food label and figure out what is it telling you about the food inside of it. So, so I'm going to give you some tips and tricks. Am I saying that Purina and Hills and all of the pet food companies are doing this? Hard no. Am I saying they could legally be within their rights to do it? Yep. And that's when you start getting into, when am I done? Am I done? Well, and this is where I start laughing, because guess what, guys? Here at Huff and Puff Awesome Dog Food Corporation, we are one of the only companies to do a formula, specifically scientifically formulated to support, Boston Terriers. I don't know how to spell Papillon. Okay, so I'm not going to use Papillon. I can't remember how to spell Papillon. Oh, how about a Brussels? If you are a Brussels Griffon breeder, I have a food that we have scientifically formulated to support that breed. No other food in the market is specifically formulated to support this obscure breed. This is also specifically formulated to support Basset Hounds. I can literally put any breed I want on the package. Because does a Boston Terrier need anything different from a Brussels Griffon? Need anything different from a Basset Hound? No, they don't. So now you can see how out of this one vat of food, bam, I now have many, many, many different brands in my family. So throwing a little truth at you there.
Miss Huff?
Yes.
Oh, sorry, you didn't respond. It lagged and I wasn't sure if you heard me.
Oh,
Is
yes.
there truth that larger, like giant breed, like Great Danes, did different protein intake? I don't know if that's a myth or a truth.
If you're talking about with growth, then yes, they are going to need a higher protein, higher mineral intake than your small and toy breed dogs, because their muscles are bigger. They're growing much faster. So to get a large breed growth diet would have to be specifically formulated to support those giant breed dogs. I couldn't have something out of this same vat for Irish Wolfhound or a Great Dane. Now, technically, could I just feed more of it? Sure. But where we're seeing the difference in those large and giant breed formulated foods is not so much in the ingredients. Sorry, my ponytail is getting loose. Not so much in the ingredients as in the alternative things that we need to take into consideration. Like the size of the kibble, right? I have small breed dogs and the kibble is very, very small. Well, a giant breed dog is going to inhale that and swallow it whole. Well, doesn't that put them at risk for bloat because it's going to be weighted down? Doesn't that negate the whole mechanical action of helping their teeth? Yep. So what you're looking at with our giant breed formulated food is generally the size and the density of the kibble, not so much the ingredients. Yeah, so Huff and Puff Awesome Dog Food Corporation is where it's at. That's where my money is.
I love that name, Huff and Puff Dog Food Corporation. That
is my imaginary pet food corporation is Huff and Puff Awesome Dog Food. All right, so these premium foods, my whole point is, are the pet food companies adding higher quality ingredients? Most likely. Do they have to call it premium? They do not. That's kind of my whole point. Here we have a Food Dynamite. That's the company name. That's the manufacturer. And here we can see that it has chicken and turkey. So they have elected to list 2 proteins. And this one's not just premium, guys. This one is super premium. And so just don't get sucked in by the fancy words. We need to be able to decipher further what exactly it is that we are getting out of this food. All right, let's talk about seniors. Oh my God, I love these senior pictures. I think some of these are cuter than the puppies. So as we know with our senior pets, now senior pets are super tough, because number one, what is the definition of a senior? There is no definition of a senior. Chronologically, we saw that there is a very, very big gap in the size of the dogs by the time they get termed a senior. In our small breed dogs, they may not be considered a senior until they're over 11 to 12 years old in human years. In our giant breed dogs, they're considered a senior when they reach the age of 8. You might have some seniors who are, 11, 12, 13 years old and act like a puppy. They're still super active and they're still super spunky. And then you have others who are the exact same age who are really sedate and really not very active. So this is where our senior support is a little bit tricky. We really have to tailor this nutritional support for the individual. We need to look at the activity level and any alternative health concerns. Is the animal suffering from age-related arthritis? Is the animal suffering from age-related multi-system organ failure? So these are the things we're going to need to take into consideration. Now, for the most part, most seniors, the metabolism has slowed down, right? Because we don't just get old on the outside, we get old on the inside too. My intestinal boys are getting old, my liver's getting old, my kidneys are getting old. So I'm going to need less calories to maintain my body. And I know that most of you are fetuses, but you all know from being on quarantine the last 3.5 months that you increased your calorie content even just slightly, and your body condition kind of changed, didn't it? So our senior pets do need less calories to maintain. It means they're not gaining weight and they're not losing weight. One of the nutrients that we really need to watch in our seniors is going to be a water. We know from the lecture that water is the most important ingredient, the most important nutrient. Our blood pressure is dependent on water. Our brain function, our kidney function, heart, all of this is dependent on water. And there are some health concerns that can have water intake as an initial clinical sign. Very commonly, diabetes. Diabetes mellitus is a condition that will cause them to have polydipsia, which is, we remember from med term, increase in drinking. So we need to really keep an eye out. Are they drinking too much? Are they drinking not enough? And there are also some medications that can alter their water intake. The other thing is that they get forgetful. It's a senior. I can tell you from my own life that as you get older, you get super forgetful. There are times I'll walk into a room, I have no idea why I went into the room. There are times when I'll be sitting on the couch and thinking I really need to do this thing, and I get off the couch, and from the time it takes me to get into a standing position, I don't remember what I was going to go do. Half the time I can't even remember what TV show I'm going to watch. What happens with these guys is they lose their thirst sensitivity. They forget that they're thirsty, or they lose the water bowl. They don't remember where it is. So with our senior pets, sometimes it is a good idea to have multiple little bowls, and so they'll just be walking by and they're like, oh, look, there's some water. I should probably drink some. We do want to decrease our fats because obviously our activity level is diminished, right? We don't want them to be putting on weight. We're trying to provide maintenance. But the other reason why we want to decrease fats is specifically because of the aging of the intestines. Remember way back a million years ago when we were talking about fats and fatty acids and how it takes additional steps to break them down? We have to then repackage them into the chylomicrons before we can upload them. And then remember, the liver has to unpackage them and then decide what to do. Well, my body, as I get older, has a diminished ability to do that. So if I can decrease the calories that I'm getting from fats, it means I don't have to do the packaging and repackaging. Protein, I also need to monitor my protein and make sure I'm feeding high quality. I need it to be highly digestible because, again, my small intestines are old and they are not working as efficiently. And my body's not going to be as efficient in utilizing the protein, which, as we know, is going to affect kidney function because that's where all of the nitrogen is going to be filtered out into my urine. So I want to make sure not eliminate. Okay, we're not eliminating any of this, but I do want to make sure that the protein, I'm going to have a less quantity, but a higher quality. So even though I'm feeding less, the animal has the potential on using more of it and more efficiently. Does that make sense to
I
everybody?
have a question about saying to a client, let's say, who has multiple dogs with multiple life stages in the house. What
Yep.
do you do then? Because a lot of people don't want to spend extra money and get different brand or different, life stage foods. Is it important they do?
Not necessarily. So, my short answer, because Jen, you almost got me on another soapbox. So I'm going to save that soapbox for the pet food labels lecture. But if we are maintaining a healthy body condition, okay, if you have alternative health concerns, all bets are off. You're going to have to figure it out. You're going to have to feed this dog this food to support this health concern, feed this dog this growth diet. You're going to have to. But if we have everybody who is in a healthy body condition, get you the all life stages. Because if you think about, yes, all life stages is going to have a higher percentage of fat, which is counterintuitive for our seniors. However, the protein is going to be of a very high quality because the puppies need it to be easy to be broken down. Fats are going to be very easy to be metabolized and broken down. So although we're not addressing the amounts, we are addressing the bioavailability. And so in that case, as long as they're maintaining a healthy body condition and we don't have any underlying organ function issues, I'd go with the high quality all life stages. Yeah.
Awesome. I think
Ms. Huffler?
that's why they use that Pro Plan at VTI. It's all stages for the dog. So I started giving it to my senior as well as my foster Scooby, and it's amazing. The difference in his stool and everything for the senior.
Right, and we use the all life stages for just that reason, because we pay, oh my goodness gracious, I don't even want to tell you what we pay normally. I think maybe between $3,000 and $4,000 a month on dog food. Yeah, oh wow is right.
Yeah, it's the best,
And
but it's
so
high, expensive.
it's a very high quality food, but we can support our younger animals because we try really hard not to get puppies, but we can support our 1-year-olds and our 8-year-olds. And as long as we're maintaining organ function and a healthy body condition, that's going to support, I didn't mean to give the impression that all life stages was something bad. It's just, it has its uses. It's a tool in the quiver. It's an arrow in the quiver. It has a specific niche when we're going to want to use the all life stages. So heck yeah. If I got a puppy and I got a senior and an adult and they're all doing okay, I'm going all life stages because I sure as heck ain't buying 3 different brands of food if I don't have to. Somebody else had a question.
Thanks for that.
Of course. Who else had a question?
Yeah, I had a question Valerie, about feeding an like let's say like an adult dog, the all life stages, but you have a puppy, right? So you feed less to the adult. Do you ever run into issues with satiety with the older dog? Like, you know, because you're feeding them less food, but
So you are now, I love this. You're thinking like a technician. This is a tech question. This is a question I would expect from one of my seniors. So excellent job. You've hit the nail on the head. One of the issues, because I am feeding less volume and because it's more easily digested, we know what sends the signal of hunger to your brain. When you eat something, your stomach increases. It activates those stretch receptors, which sends the message to your brain, I'm full, stop, stop. But if I am very quickly emptying the stomach, those sensors are now deactivated, sending the message to my brain I might be hungry. And so here's my tech tip. This is a little tech tip again for you, because I've kind of tried and true some of the stuff so you don't have to do the trial and error. If you're having an issue with satiety, add some fiber. You can add a tablespoon of pumpkin. Now, not pumpkin pie. Don't add pumpkin pie, just pumpkin. Add some, get some green beans, and you can kind of pulp them, or you can feed them whole. Something that's a much higher fiber, you can just add that to the food, and that's going to help maintain the satiety without adding the calories.
Miss Huff, could you please repeat that? My whole internet went out, so I didn't hear nothing you said until pumpkin.
Okay, so what the question was is, since if we're feeding an adult an all life stage diet, okay, and because of the higher fat content, we're going to be feeding less of it, okay, we're feeding less quantity. Does that have an issue with the animal feeling full or maintaining satiety? And so my answer was, if you have the animal who is coming to you and begging for food in between meals, one of the things we can do is add some fiber to the diet. We know that fiber slows digestion. It's going to slow the stomach from emptying, and it's going to slow the deactivation of those stretch receptors. And so we're going to maintain that satiety. So I was saying you could add a tablespoon of pumpkin. You could add some green beans. You could add some baby carrots. These are all things that are very high in fiber that aren't going to add the calories. And so it's going to take a longer time for the stomach to empty, and then you're going to maintain the satiety in between meals. Physical activity, okay? Yes, our seniors are going to slow down. So, Claire's asked me just a question about pet food companies being limited in the information. Put a pin in that for me, Claire, because I have an entire lecture over what are they required to tell us and how can we decipher that for our benefit. So I'm going to give you all of the information and where to look to find out if you're at the grocery and you're looking for foods, you will have an educated guess of which one is going to be a better quality. So put a pin in that, because I got a whole lecture series coming up on nothing but that topic. All right, so our physical activity, obviously a factor. I love this picture. This animal right here is my spirit animal. This has been me the last 4 months. I'm just saying. Although you got to add some snacks. You got to add like some chips and some Diet Coke, maybe a couple of blue sodas over here within arm's reach. Robert, you know what I'm talking about. Although no beet pizza. I think we've decided we are shenanigans on the beet pizza. Ugh. All right, so we have a couple of different activity levels. So we have some categories. Obviously low, which is little to no exercise. Bam. That's this guy. These are the animals who are going to be at great risk for obesity, and we need to address that nutritionally. Now, the majority of our animals are going to be right here. where, you know, they tear around the backyard, they play ball, you take them for a nice walk, take them to the dog park. That's going to be a moderate activity. And so this is where we're really going to watch for our maintenance diets. We have two other categories that are not really going to be in our typical companion animal. We have our working dogs, right? These are dogs with jobs, herding dogs, search and rescue dogs, agility dogs, hunting dogs. And we have subgroups within each of these working dog groups. Like, for example, our herding dogs. Let's talk about this for a minute because I find it interesting. So our herding dogs, remember, are going to be like our border collies, our English sheepdogs, you know, those kinds of dogs. Not only do we have to take that they are a herding dog into consideration, but what kind of herding dog? So we have essentially three different categories of herding dog. We have the herding dogs who are nippers. These are going to be like your cattle dogs, and they are actively going after the ankles and the hocks of the cows and driving them where they need to go by nipping. Then you have the leaning. These are the dogs that will just go up and kind of lean. These are going to be more of your sheep dogs, like your Old English sheepdog. Oh God, if you've ever been in a room with an Old English sheepdog, they will herd you and you don't even know you've been herded. I swear. So I'll never forget this. So owner had a video, and thank God she had it, because, and I don't have a copy, but she had two Old English sheepdogs. And she would watch, she had a bunch of kids out in the backyard one day. And the kids are just playing, blah, blah, blah. And the sheepdogs just go up, and what they do, it's so subtle. They just kind of lean on you and you move. And then they lean on you and you move. And they do this because we don't want the sheepdogs getting nippy, right? Because that could potentially damage the fleece of the sheep. We don't want them like the cattle dogs. So they just go up and lean on them. Lady looked out, and all of the kids were in like shoulder to shoulder in the middle of the yard, and the dogs were just like shark circling them and just leaning on them. Just leaning. Finally, you have the glaring dogs. These are the border collies. And here's what they do. They just intimidate. They have this icy, like, I'm a serial killer and I'm about to slit your throat glare. And they'll get down and they just go. And you're like, oh, I'm going to back up. And that's how they herd. So it's not just important to know that we need nutritional differences with the different jobs, but we need to be able to recognize the subcategory of each job and know that our glaring dogs are not going to have the same nutritional support as our nipping dogs. So there's a ton of stuff to think about when we're tailoring a support system nutritionally. Finally, we have our extremes. And these are going to be in two categories. Our racing dogs, like our greyhounds. Okay, they're sprint racers. They have short, sharp bursts of speed with periods of rest in between. And we have our endurance dogs, like our Iditarod dogs, our ice sled dogs. The support for these two are going to be very, very different depending on the activity. So our sprinting dogs, here we have our greyhounds. I think, didn't they close down the Greyhound racetrack here? Is it still open?
I think it's closed.
I think they did close it. I don't remember. I know we still have the horse racetrack, but I think they did close the Greyhound track.
Are you talking about the one in Galveston?
Well, there used to be one right here in Houston, down I think near Pearland.
Yeah,
this is there, but I think it's like closed because you know what's going on.
Because the one next to Galveston's opened back up.
Did they? Yeah, I just, for some reason, I thought not because of COVID, just that they had closed. I don't remember. I might be making that up. Sometimes Doug tells me stories and I believe them as true.
I never knew we even had one of those here. That's kind of cool.
Yeah.
There I went to one. It's the most amazing. Yeah, they go so fast. They go zoom.
They do. And there's honestly, if you're looking for an apartment dog, there's no dog better than a retired racer, because they are gentle. They're gentle giants. They are already kennel trained, because it's kind of how they spend their lives. And other than, taking them to the dog park and letting them tear around the backyard, shockingly, they are a relatively low impact exercise needing animal. So they're perfect. Although, obviously, we're wearing the muzzles for a reason. So these sprinting dogs, they are going to need up to 50% of their intake as carbohydrates. Now, this is going to be in preparation for a race. And this is where we have kind of an undulating nutrition with these sprinting dogs. When we are getting them ready for a race, 50% of their caloric intake will be carbohydrates. But then in between the races, we're going to level and moderate that off. Any of you that did any kind of marathon racing, or if you watch The Office, you know that the Michael Scott run for the cure for rabies, what does he do? He carb loads. If you are a marathon runner, a couple days before, you start loading carbohydrates. Yeah, Britt, they are still legal in Texas, but I really think that the raceway, the dog track here in Houston, has closed. But again, Doug might be telling me that and is telling me a lie. So if you're a marathon runner, gearing up, because remember, what is the whole function? Why do we do this? Why would we do a carbo load? Well, remember, carbohydrates are the easiest to store and the first thing to be catabolized. It's the easiest thing to be catabolized. Fat, we need the additional steps of transforming them, repackage them in chylomicrons. We talked about that. Carbs, however, I can eat a lot of simple carbohydrates, and then when I'm running my marathon, yes, this is how I'm running while I'm sitting, and my blood sugar starts to drop, I can very easily convert that stored energy into usable energy. But I definitely don't want to keep up on that increased carbohydrate, because then in between, when I'm not having the increased energy, I'm going to get fat because all those carbs are going to my adipose tissue. So this is what we call an undulating nutritional support. I'm going to hit peak carbohydrates, 50%, and then I'm going to drop down the carbohydrates and then increase the carbohydrates and drop them down, just like a marathon runner. In our working dogs, this is going to be very counterproductive. Okay, this is 50% of our intake in carbs is going to be for our sprinting dogs only. In our working dogs, what happens is the carbohydrates are so quick to convert. Remember, we end up with, over time, now I'm not talking short, like a 5-minute race. It's not going to happen. But if I have a working dog over time and I am over catabolizing this carbohydrates from my adipose, don't I develop ketoacidosis? Of course I do, because the over-catabolization is giving me the acetyl-CoA, which is being converted into ketone bodies, which is turning me acidic, ketoacidosis. Well, that is going to make you feel sore. We also have lactic acid buildup. And so in my methodical plodding working dogs, this is not going to work. But in my sprinting dogs, this is going to work during the times of the sprint. My endurance dogs are going to be just the opposite. I need a super high amino acid content because these dogs are not running, full on out. They are endurance. They are running at a static speed over long periods of time, which means they're breaking down muscle. I need to have the amino acids, the Legos, to repair that muscle as it's being broken down. And I want to really minimize the amount of fat and carbohydrates because of the potential for breakdown. So I still want to give it to them, but I am going to tailor it to where the majority of their nutrition is coming from those amino acids to provide them with what they need to build back up those broken down muscles. If you ever watch that show, Life Below Zero, one of the characters, it's supposed to be reality, but there's no such thing as reality TV. I'm really questioning whether there's anything such as reality. I honestly don't know anymore. Don't know. But the diet that the sled dogs would be fed was just fish. Just a fatty, like a salmon or a pilchard and he would just throw them whole fish. The bones gave them their calcium, their phosphorus, all of their minerals. The fish gave them their fatty acids. We got our high protein. And so he would just throw 2 or 3 frozen fish in each of their bowls. A few other factors that are going to influence maintenance, right? We may have to feed a little less, we may have to feed a little more in order to have that maintaining the weight. Well, the climate, we live in Houston, and apparently we're having a heat wave. There's supposed to be, I don't know, today or tomorrow, or maybe it's already here, I haven't left the house. Some sort of massive heat wave. Well, extreme heat, extreme cold is definitely going to influence the nutrition to maintain weight, because now you're using a ton of energy to thermoregulate. And so we're going to have to alter in order to compensate for that. The environment. Are we a multi-pet household? Do you have kids? Do you have visitors? Has the environment changed at all? And then, of course, stress. And I think we can all agree, over the last 3.5 months, we have all been under a tremendous amount of stress. And it's definitely going to affect the nutrition support, because we have our stress hormones like cortisol that is forcing our body into an anabolic state, meaning that everything we eat is going straight to our fat. That's all because of stupid cortisol, which is because of stress. We talked about that at the beginning of AMP. It's also what makes you forgetful. It makes you not be able to concentrate. It makes you not be able to sleep. In fact, there's right now a massive issue with insomnia, because people are off their sleep cycles and they have had such increased level. We're now at that turning point to where the damage might be permanent, that you have had such increased levels of cortisol for so long that it's altered your brain chemistry. And what it does is, I don't know if any of you have been experiencing this, Lord knows I have, where you lay down in bed and your eyes are so heavy and you're like falling asleep in your chair and you're like, okay, I'm gonna go to bed. And the minute that you're laid down, this little bugger goes, let me sing you the song of my people. Let me remind you of every stupid thing you've ever done. Remember that really embarrassing thing in high school? Let's relive it over and over and over and over. And suddenly your brain is revved up. Well, guess what, guys? Doug feeds on cortisol. Doug it's like crack. Doug is now a cortisol meth addict. And he's just super jittery. Stress. So our extreme temperature, this is actually a screenshot that I took of that show that I've been talking about. I'm not losing it, Marissa. I'm not losing it. Maybe you're losing it. I'm just fine. Maybe I am losing it just a little bit.
I looked up and saw your hamster and I was like, wait, what?
But that's what's happening in your brain. That's That's how cortisol affects your Doug. Every one of you has a Doug. You may not call him Doug, but every one of you has a mental hamster running on the wheel. And right now he's like a little methed out cokehead and he just doesn't stop. Do what, Marissa?
I'm on like I just drank a lot of coffee this morning, so right now I'm feeling like very jittery and like I feel like that right now.
Yes. But I think we can all agree since this whole COVID just reality since March, we had COVID and then we had the quarantine and then the stress of possibly opening the state. Then we had the murder hornets. And again, don't introduce a murder hornet scenario in episode 3 and then not follow up on it. That's not fair to the viewers. That's just not fair. Now we have the antithesis of COVID, which I'm not getting political, and I don't. I am behind the cause 100,000 bazillion %. However, we cannot forget that COVID hasn't gone away. And this is going to cause spikes. This is going to cause, ultimately, in my opinion, Texas is going to have to shut down again. So it's a mess right now, and my body can't deal with any more cortisol. All right, so our climate, extreme temperatures. This is extreme cold, also extreme heat can affect our nutrition. A dog living in the Arctic might need a 70 to 80% boost in energy. Now, let me tell you a fun trivia fact. This is really kind of interesting, I think. Or maybe it's just me thinks it's interesting, but that's fine because this is my show. So I feel like I'm on a TV show nowadays. I'm on this talk show, and I just sit and talk to myself. Don't know if anyone's actually listening to me. You're right, Marissa, I am losing it. Okay, I rescind my past statement. All right, so we have our Arctic dogs, right? We have our Malamutes, we have our Siberian Huskies. What makes them specifically bred to be Arctic dogs? Okay, they got a couple of really cool anatomical differences to non-Arctic dogs. Yes, we need to close the portal. Oh my God, everybody lined up their freaking, I almost said a naughty word. Their brooms. No, I did not do it.
It was so cool. It was only one, I think it was like a one time a couple years you would be able to do it.
Yes, and Jade, I have gotten like 4 Amber Alerts on my phone in the last 3 days.
A lot of kids been getting kidnapped too.
That's true. I have got a lot of Amber Alerts.
What is happening? You guys help me maintain sanity. Help me. Help me.
The world is going to beep in a handbasket.
Well, you can, yeah, it is. Yup.
I thought you were the only one that realized those Amber Alerts, honestly.
No, I got 2 yesterday.
Mm-hmm. And they're scary too when they go off.
You know, they found those Idaho kids.
Yeah, I don't want to talk about it. I don't want to talk about it. I don't want to talk about it. This is my show. You guys are eating up my airtime right now.
It's National German Chocolate Cake Day. Just FYI.
Well, that sounds. I'm not a big fan. I
am cracking up laughing over here. I love when Miss Bernadette say, "You know what, guys? Today is National Such Day," and I be looking forward to it. When you don't say it at the beginning of the class, I'm like, "Okay, she's slipping on her pippin."
Mona. So
German chocolate cake.
maybe it's time to go get some German chocolate cake vodka.
Did somebody say vodka?
Yeah, somebody did. Bernadette.
They have, what is it, German chocolate what? I've heard of those.
German chocolate cake. Yeah, they have the German chocolate cake shots. Who do you think you invented those? No.
Absolutely not. I did. It's been a while since I've done things like that.
I think we just killed Bernadette.
Early 20s.
I mean, my God, I was in my early 20s back in the 90s when Richmond Strip was in its prime.
Valerie. I have a feeling you're probably about my sister's age, and my sister used to go all those places. Her and her friends reminisce.
Yeah, you had Peter's Wildlife, you had the Daiquiri Factory, Sam's Boat, Sam's Place, all of them. Bernadette, I'm so sorry. Are you okay?
I literally spit the last drink of my coffee back in my cup. I'm so glad I had my cup there. If not, it would have gone all over my computer.
These
I scared
Bernadette.
my little dog. Oh my gosh, that was hilarious, Miss Huff.
I mean, come on. You can relate to me that these darn fetuses think that they are inventing things that
Oh yeah.
we invented. You think our generation on Richmond Strip invented.
I love it when they come up with something. Oh, have y'all ever?
Have you guys ever tried this new drink called a vodka shot?
Sister,
We invented it.
where have you been?
Y'all
Jeez.
look crazy.
Oh, you guys, I love you. I love you so much. All right, so let's get back to some trivia. Let's get off the vodka. Let's get off the, you know what? I blame you, Bernadette. I blame you. You brought up the German chocolate cake?
I blame Mona.
Okay, I blame Mona too.
Yeah, Mona and
Wait, how
Valerie.
did you get
Valerie
on
sitting
cake,
here all
though?
quiet. Like
Uh-uh.
nothing's
I didn't say
happening.
nothing about cake. That was Miss Bernadette who said cake. That wasn't me.
Although technically, if I'm remembering correctly, I am the one that mentioned vodka first.
You did, and then Valerie did. Yeah.
Oh yeah, and
Well,
I
it just reminded me. I remember people used to say, I can't remember what the two liquors was. I wasn't into that stuff, but
it was definitely. So it was.
they
Really
said that it
Miss Huff.
tasted like German chocolate.
This all started because of Miss Huff. She said vodka. I chimed in, and then Miss Bernadette said German chocolate. I don't know how.
All right, I will take 22% of the blame.
Okay, well I got that too. I got the extra too, and then German chocolate. You got to hold it down on that one.
And correct me if I'm wrong, I may be mistaken, and then we are getting back to nutrition. But I believe it was vodka and Frangelica. Might have been Amaretto and Frangelica. No, Frangelica is already Amaretto. I think it's vodka and Frangelica mixed together for a German chocolate cake.
I think it is. I think it is. I think you're right.
All right. So we have our cold dogs who have actual physical anatomical differences to non-Arctic dogs. For example, our Malamutes and our Siberian Huskies, now this is not something they do consciously, obviously, but they are able to manipulate their thyroid function. So when they are in these extreme cold temperatures, what they do is they're autonomic, right? It's not like I can go speed it up. Their autonomic nervous system will start overproducing thyroid hormone. More thyroid hormone speeds up their metabolism. More metabolism means their insides are working harder, which generates heat. And that's how they thermoregulate in these extreme temperatures. They also have much denser capillary beds in the pads and the nails of their feet, so that they have a higher blood flow to the pads, and that keeps them from freezing on this Arctic tundra. So pretty cool. Because guys, these sled dogs are not laying on the bed. These guys are not like Poppy and Maisie sleeping on the pillow next to me. These dogs are living in these extreme environments. They have these little wooden homes that are stuffed with hay. So it's not like they're going inside and getting out of the temperature. So they have to have these physiological changes that allow them to be able to thermoregulate. Here we have our working dogs, our dogs with jobs. And as I said, we not only have to take the fact that the increased energy they're using to do their jobs, but what kind of job are they doing and how are they doing it? We talk specifically about our herding dogs, but we also have, like here, our search and rescue dogs. I have here 4 different types of search and rescue. And so the types of terrain, here we have them on rubble. Here we have a different type of rubble. Here we have our avalanche rescue. Here we have our water rescue. They're all search and rescue, but the environments that they're working in are very different. And that's going to impact the nutritional support that they need in order to accomplish those jobs. All right, here's our trivia question of the day. What breed of dog, oops, I know you can't see it when I'm doing that. What breed of dog is this?
From what I can see, my picture small. It looks like a Saint Bernard.
So it is not. I will give you a clue. This color pattern on this dog is not the typical color that you would normally see it in.
A Newfie?
Yeah, I was thinking of a Newfie.
This is a Newfoundland. Does anyone remember what this black and white pattern of this breed is referred to as? It is a Landseer. I don't know if Landseer. And that's the term for this black and white pattern on this Newfoundland, because normally they're black.
Is that the same dog that was used to revive the St. Bernards though?
Used to do what?
Is that the same breed that was used to revive the St. Bernards, was it, I think?
The Newfoundlands have always been water dogs. The St. Bernards are your Arctics, more like this, your avalanche snow and rescue dogs. The St. Bernards were the ones that used to, in all of the art, have the little barrel of rum under their chin, which ultimately was the worst thing you can do if you're suffering from hypothermia. But our Newfoundlands are specifically bred to be water dogs. They have the heavy double undercoat that makes them buoyant, also protects them from the water. Their feet are webbed that allows them to act like flippers. They have a very, very powerful tail that acts as a rudder, and they are what we call a soft mouth dog, meaning that they are the kind of dog that can grip like a baby chick and not break it. They can grip an egg and not break it. And so when they are grabbing somebody and dragging them, you don't want them, biting the person and puncturing their skin. You want them to be firm but gentle. And so that's where these have been specifically bred for our water rescues. They were often, well, not often, they were typically bred to be black. But what was happening is, because the black helps with, again, their thermal regulation, but in very dark water, they were hard to see. And so what we started doing was, you guys are right in one respect, is we started breeding a little sprinkling of St. Bernard coloring into them. We also sprinkled a little bit of Great Pyrenees, and that's what now gives them this white and black, making them easier to see in the dark water. And this pattern is called the land, that's why they're called the Landseer, because you can see them from land. Dog trivia, pew pew, coming at ya.
Miss Huff?
Yeah.
How cold is too cold for Arctic, like dogs that are made for Arctic weathers and stuff like that? How cold is too cold?
There is no too cold. If you watch the, what is it? The Life Below Zero, those dogs are living in those shelters. Now they do have a very thick bed of hay, and they're not bred to be pets. They are bred to be no different than your car. But sometimes they get down between, -40, -50.
And they just be all right?
And they just are okay. They're increasing their thyroid and the superficial capillary vessels, and they're fine. Now, would they be fine if they were exposed to the elements and the wind? Of course not. but because they are protected from the elements, and those boxes, it's very important that the owner and the driver of these animals take a very, very close look at the direction that storms are coming in, because what they need to do is turn the box so that the wind is not blowing into the opening of the shelter. So they'll go in and they'll rotate them based on what the weather is happening. Stress, we talked about stress. Oh my God, we're all so stressed right now. Our cortisol levels are off the charts. Ugh. Psychological stress, and we have here, you know, our show circuit. We talked yesterday about the fabulous dog show. Here we have not only physical stress, but also emotional stress. Animals who are being boarded. Oh my goodness, our animals, when they come in on campus, you have them now in a cage, hearing lots of other animals. They're smelling fear, they're smelling discontent, they may be smelling a little bit of aggression. They're certainly smelling the fear and anxiety on you. That's why when you go into Miss Cat's lab, you need to be calm. Don't get overwhelmed, because the minute that you start feeling anxious, they pick that up and they will feed off of that. All right, so do I have any comments, questions, concerns? That concludes all of the alternative things we need to take into consideration with dogs. All right, so cats. Let's start talking about cats a little bit. Cats are aliens. They have different nutritional needs than any other animal on the planet. We know the specifics. I'll just do a little debrief. Remember, obligate carnivores, right? Means that they have amino acids they can only get from animal. We had what? Taurine, right? Without it, they go blind, heart failure. You had increased amounts of arginine. They needed like 4 times the amount of arginine. We have the specific fatty acids that they need. We had the sensitivity to the niacin, right? They need it, but they're very sensitive to it. We had the sensitivity to our fat-soluble vitamin A, which causes, remember, the cervical spondylosis and the ventral flexion. We had, excuse me, that they are unable to catabolize their own body tissue. So they cannot rely on internal gluconeogenesis. They have to depend on external gluconeogenesis, and that makes them eat multiple meals frequently. In fact, our domestic cats will eat 12 to 20 meals every 24 hours. This is important to tell your owners about, because inevitably, and I think we've mentioned this before, what happens is the cat will go up to the food and they'll only eat 2 or 3 kibbles. Now, we're used to dogs, right? My dogs are all binge eaters. I put the food down, they eat the whole bowl. I know some of you are like, my dog just grazes every day, all day long. Well, that's great. That's not normal. Dogs are binge eaters. That's how, you know, you all sound to me in my head sometimes. Dogs are binge eaters. And so owners having cats are anticipating the same activity, the same behavior. So when the cat goes over and just eats a few little pieces, which in reality was enough to raise the blood glucose, enough for right then, but then he walks away and the owner thinks, oh no, he didn't like the food. So what does the owner do? Changes the diet. How well do cats deal with change? They don't. Cats are also very sensitive to taste. That's why cat food, if you've ever eaten it, is disgusting. But they are very sensitive to the taste and the texture. They are very orally tactile. And as I said earlier, they're only going to eat what they can smell. So if you have a cat with an upper respiratory, even though it has nothing to do with the digestive system, they'll stop eating because they can't smell it. Some of the other factors we need to take is how old is the cat, the stage of life. Something really interesting happened to the cats in the last 20 years or so, maybe 25 years, within a lifetime. With the increased public awareness of how to care for them, nutritional needs, as well as advances in veterinary medicine, cats are living longer now than ever before in history. So are dogs, actually. I mean, your medium and large breed dogs used to be 11, 12 years old was the average age. Now we have them routinely living to be 16, 17 years old. Cats, oh geez, cats are now living so long because of the advances in medicine and the advances in nutritional support. Guys, we had to add an entire new life stage, right? We got kitten, which is under 1 year of age, young adult, which is between 1 and 7, mature adult, between 7 and 11. Guys, they're not even a senior until they hit over 11 years old. And it is routine that these cats can live well into their late teens, even early 20s. That's routine. That happened within my career, that life stage had to happen. So we also want to look at how active is the cat. This cat is my spirit animal. If you ever want to know what Miss Huff looks like at about 9:30 at night, that would be it.
Blue soda at arm's length.
Right there with the remote. I finished all my history homework. I'm now brain dead, and I'm just sitting there watching The Office on just automatic, so that I don't even have to hit the remote. It just keeps going. Just keeps going. That's the best thing ever. Yeah, so this is my spirit animal. So how active is the cat? And is the cat maintaining an ideal body condition? Obviously, okay, now this cat is pretty fluffy, obviously. But what body score would you anticipate this giving this guy right here?
10.
Sean.
This guy is definitely, what a big old 5. We know from our previous lectures, keeping weight off is a heck of a lot easier than getting weight off. I know, and I agree with you, Claire. All that is just to have this, it's a little table. It's just a little table. You can put a little bowl on it and not even have to worry. Hands-free, hands-free. Some of those unique would just kind of do, it's where he rests his spirit. Yeah, just like remember way back when we were doing carbohydrates and I had the picture of that guy with the shiner on his belly and he had the giant, oh my goodness gracious. All right, so cats, as we know, they do have very specific nutritional needs. Now, I'm just going to touch on these because we've already lectured over them. We're looking at what additional things do I need to take into consideration. So we know amino acids, I already talked about this. You have the taurine, you have the arginine, you have the vitamin A, right? They have to get that from the animal. They cannot use it from the plant precursor. Dogs can. Dogs can get their vitamin A from the plant precursor. So can we. Cats can't. Obligate carnivore. Vitamin B, we know that they need more thiamine, they need more niacin, but they are very, very sensitive to that niacin. They can kill them. Convulsions. So it's that tightrope, delicate tightrope. Our arachidonic acid, oh my gosh, I didn't even touch on that one. That was our fatty acid. Remember, we had our omega-3 and our omega-6. We had our alpha-linolenic and our linoleic. And in the dog, we are able to convert to arachidonic, but in the cat, we can't. So this has to be a separate nutrient in the diet, and it's only found in this form in animal tissue. And then, of course, protein. Our cats are obligate carnivores, meaning that they are adapted specifically for a high protein and a low carbohydrate diet. Oh, look at those babies. So here we have our, there we go. Here we have just in written the life stages that I just went over. Kittens are growing holy crap machines. This is not a typo, guys. Our kitten going from newborn to 5 months old will increase their size approximately 2,000%. Sink that in. How much energy do you think it's going to take to facilitate that kind of growth? That's crazy amount of energy. Crazy amount of energy. As our kittens are growing, they're going to need 2 times the amount of energy that they would need typically when they become adults. Just like our canines, at about 3 to 4 weeks, the magic happens. Their little toothins start to come in. Got to start watching mom's nips, right? She's going to start being at risk for that mastitis because they're gnawing on her nipples. About 8 weeks, they're going to be fully weaned, meaning that they're on some sort of external form of nutrition. And cats, it's best, unless there's a medical issue, feed them. Have a bowl and just keep it full. Typically, cats will not binge eat. Now, obviously, Miss Huff, my cat won't stop eating. Well, then we need to address that. But typically, cats will just go eat what they need for the gluconeogenesis at the time and then stop and then go back when their blood sugar starts to drop again. And they do their own self-regulation. So dry food is going to be the best form. If you do have an animal who's kidney compromised, you can supplement with a little bit of wet, but just remembering, can't leave it out. It's disgusting and it will grow mold very quickly. Just like with my dogs, good nutrition is at its peak during pregnancy and lactation. Well, she's growing kittens inside of her, right? She's feeding kittens. Now, we don't have the same diversity in the litters that we see in our canines. Canines, you have some breeds that are typical to have only 1 or 2 puppies. Oh my Lord, you have some breeds that are typical to have 11, 12, 13 puppies. It's ridiculous. We had, oh my goodness, several years ago, it's probably got to be about 5 years ago or so, we had 2 females that came in from a shelter and they snuck them in because we don't want pregnant bitches on campus. We can't do anything with the puppies and we can't do anything with the mom until she gives birth. And even after that, until the puppies are weaned. And so this one shelter snuck in 2 of them. We didn't realize it until later. And so the first gave birth and she had 8 puppies. The second one gave birth and had 13 puppies, and it was within 2 weeks. So we had like over 20 puppies. And it was both the best and worst thing ever. We kept them in that multi-purpose room, the one right beside bulk storage. And that was the nursery. And we would just go in and have puppy time. And I would just go down there and I'd just sit and I would just drench myself in puppies. It was fabulous. And it was awesome. But that's a lot of mouths to feed with no return. So our felines, though, don't have that same diversity. Typically, your cats are going to deliver between 2 and 5 kittens, which is great because that's about the number of nipples they've got. So at parturition, meaning birth, this queen is only going to lose about 40% of the weight that she gained. The rest of it is going to be lost over time as I keep saying puppies, as the kittens are using it to facilitate that phenomenal growth. At the time the kittens are born, she should be taking in about 50% more calories than she would have been for maintenance. Holy smoke, you guys. Time flies when we are talking about vodka shots and German chocolate cake. Thank you again to Bernadette. And I think I did take, 23% of the blame on that one?
You're welcome. I'll take the other 2%. That makes it 25. The other one is the fetuses around here.
Yeah. Have you guys ever tried a German chocolate cake shot? No. Never.
We didn't know what y'all are talking about.
What?